Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné, and here are the top stories from across the continent. A multi-story building under construction in Nairobi collapses, leaving at least 4 people trapped. The construction authority says that 58% of the buildings in the Kenyan capital are unfit for habitation. A new migration route emerges from Guinea, with Senegal and Mauritania tightening their borders. The journey grows longer and riskier, this new path becoming a deadly gamble. The Africa Cup of Nations takes a short break, but the action is back on tomorrow in Tangiers, where Senegal faces Sudan in the first of the round of 16 clashes. A taste of the drama, surprises, and maybe a few nerves still to come. A multi-story building under construction has collapsed in Nairobi's South Sea district, with at least 4 people feared trapped beneath the rubble. Authorities have yet to confirm the cause, but building collapses are common in Nairobi, where poor construction standards and weak regulation have long been blamed. The National Construction Authority found that 58% of the buildings in Kenya's capital are unfit for habitation. Rescue teams are on site as families plead for faster efforts to reach survivors.
I have a sibling in this rubble, is my brother. So since last night, from 4:30, he's trapped there, and the county government is taking this thing slowly. And as a family, we are worried. So we need this thing to be hurried so that we can have our family member back.
And another tragedy, at least 7 people have drowned and many more are missing after a boat carrying around 200 migrants capsized off the coast of the Gambia. The Navy launched a nighttime rescue operation, saving nearly 100 people, several with serious injuries. Authorities say some of the victims are foreign nationals, as departures increased from Gambia amid tighter maritime controls elsewhere along the Atlantic migration route. And Guinea as well has now become another major departure point for that same route, with controls tightening in Senegal and Mauritania. More boats are now setting off from its coastline on a journey that is longer, more than 700 kilometers, riskier and more exposed to the open ocean. There are growing fears this shift could make the route even deadlier. Our regional correspondent report from Conakry.
Aisha Kamara sits at home in Conakry, waiting and worrying. 2 months ago, her only son set off from Guinea's capital, trying to reach the Canary Islands. The boat capsized and never made it past Mauritania. He was returned to Conakry and hospitalized.
He told me on the phone about the crossing, that they were drinking seawater and that they had to mix flour with the gasoline on the floor in order to be able to eat, because that was all there was.
Her son is slowly recovering, but many don't make it as departures from Guinea are on the rise. Tighter border controls and bilateral agreements, often with EU states, in countries like Mauritania and Senegal, mean that migrants are choosing less monitored routes.
The authorities first closed Mauritania. When Mauritania closed, Senegal opened. And now that Senegal is in the process of closing, Gambia and Guinea too.
The 2,200-kilometre crossing can take up to 10 days, substantially increasing the risk of shipwrecks. In mid-November, one boat carrying several hundred people capsized off the Mauritanian coast. But economic hardship and political instability mean young people are still choosing to leave.
Once we have finished our studies, what are we going to do here? That's what scares us. So if we have the opportunity to go to Europe by sea, we will go.
The Atlantic route killed 10,000 people last year, according to NGO Caminado Fronteras.
Now a bit of news from Gabon. In a government check-up, the President Brice Oligui Nguema has dismissed Finance Minister Henry-Claude Ohima amid a growing financial crisis. With the country facing a cash squeeze and rising debts, Thierry Minko, a technical advisor, steps in as the new Minister of Economy, Finance and Public Debt. This change comes on the heels of a warning from Fitch Ratings about widening deficits and a dip in investor confidence. And staying on the economic front in Gabon, homeowners are now being hit with a new housing tax introduced by the government. The new tax is based on how much electricity each family consumes. This measure is widely contested by consumer advocates who consider this tax unbearable, as most Gabonese already face daily difficulties. Indirect eating.
In Gabon, homeowners, including Frederick, say the peace and quiet of their homes has been replaced by concern over a new housing tax introduced by the government. The new tax is based on how much electricity each family consumes.
Attaching a housing tax to an electricity bill is simply a way of telling the Gabonese people that if you don't pay the housing tax, you won't have electricity. And that's unhealthy.
The measure is also contested by consumer advocates like Christian, who considers this tax unbearable as most Gabonese already have daily difficulties to deal with.
I understand that Gabon remains a rentier state and that the population expects a much more equitable distribution of these rents rather than being turned into a cash and cow to be emptied.
To justify this measure, the government, which took over in August 2023, claims to have inherited a colossal debt from the previous government that amounts to over 75% of the gross domestic product. Facing budgetary constraints, authorities say they've decided that all Gabonese citizens must pitch in to help revive the economy. Experts think this is a good idea.
The state budget has increased on average from 3,000, 4,000 billion to over 6,000 billion CFA francs. This growth cannot be financed solely by external contributions. You understand that the Gabonese people must also make an effort through greater mobilization of their own funds.
The bill is currently under review by Parliament before a vote at the beginning of January 2026.
Now, you might remember the story in 2007. The French charity Zoe's Ark claimed it was rescuing Darfur orphans for foster care in France. But 6 of its members, including its founder, were arrested in Chad as they attempted to fly out 103 children, most later found to be Chadian, many with living parents. They were jailed, later pardoned, and returned to France, where they received suspended sentences. As Harold Gerald and Fadil Bayat report for France 24, many of those children are still fighting for compensation.
In total, there were 103 of us child victims, victims of Zoe's Ark. We come from different places, some from Biltine, some from Tine, from Adre. Almost all the children involved now live in towns in eastern Chad. Fewer than 10% live in the capital.
Adam is Chadian, age 23. He was 5 years old when the association Zoe's Ark attempted to send him to France with 102 other children. They were supposed to be taken in by French families who believed they were caring for orphans from Sudan's Darfur region, exactly what the members of the association claimed at the time.
We've even created a WhatsApp group for victims' families. I'm the representative in the capital, in N'Djamena, so I have to travel back and forth to the east like today. It's exhausting, but I hold on. Good evening, Hafiz. How are you?
Here in Adre, Adam is eagerly awaited. He's spent years fighting for the victims of Zoe's Ark to be compensated, as ordered by the Chadian courts in 2007.
And that was a short version of a report that will be going to be broadcast in full on Sunday, 21:40 Paris time. And you can also watch the whole story already available on our website. Now, the Africa Cup of Nations is taking a short break. The players will be back on the field tomorrow for the next round of the competition. The first round of 16 games kicks off in Tangiers as Senegal plays Sudan. Our own sport expert, Emily Boyle, is with us, and she has been following closely the competition. Welcome, Emily. So what should we expect tomorrow?
Well, it's all kicking off with quite a big game, actually a David and Goliath game, if you like, as AFCON heavyweight Senegal, Lions of Teranga, are facing off against Sudan. Now, they've looked in pretty good form so far, Senegal, winning 3-0 against Botswana, staying level against DRC, a big team, and then beating Benin 3-0. The team will be able to rely on their top scorers, Nicholas Jackson and Sharif Ndiaye, both who scored 2 goals each, as well as their star in midfield, Sadio Mane. Unfortunately, they'll be playing without their captain, Kalidou Koulibaly, who'll be missing this game after receiving a red card against Benin. Senegal will be up against Sudan, who managed to qualify for their first knockout round in 13 years, despite not scoring a single goal in the competition. Their 1-0 win against Equatorial Guinea was thanks to an own goal by Saul Koko, but it was enough to get them through. A brilliant result for a team that had to prepare their tournament entirely abroad because of the conflict happening in Sudan. Sudan's players are hoping up against a tough opponent tomorrow, but they're hoping to go as far as possible to bring a little joy to their supporters. Here's what their head coach, Kwasi Appiah, had to say.
We are here to make sure we showcase what Sudan can also do. I'm praying that through maybe even the AFCON, it will help let the war calm down or even cease totally. That's why we're praying. Because I remember there was one game we played. When we won the game, everybody had to put his gun down, celebrating for about a week, which for me is something that football can change everything in this world.
Indeed, football can change everything in this world, Emily. So there are 8 games in total in the next phase of the competition. So what are the matches to keep an eye on?
Well, we know that with an AFCON, any game can be a surprise. So really, I would recommend you watch every single one of them, but I know that's not possible. So let me talk you through a few of the ones that I think will be quite interesting. The biggest clashes, I would say, both come on the 6th of January, the first being Algeria against DR Congo. The Phoenix had a perfect group stage, winning all 3 group stage games, scoring 7 goals and only letting 1 through. The Leopards, meanwhile, are looking dangerous, winning 2 of their group stage games and drawing 1-1 against those heavyweights, Senegal. They'll be hoping to go further than they did in 2023 when they reached the semi-finals. Later on the 6th, the defending champions Ivory Coast will be going up against Burkina Faso. The Stallions might be looking for an upset there to get into the quarters. And finally, we have to mention the hosts Morocco. They finished top of their group with 2 wins against Comoros and Zambia and 1 draw against Mali. They were the overwhelming favourites coming into this competition, but the Atlas Lions still have quite a lot to prove. But they will be happy to have one of their stars back among their ranks, Ashraf Hakimi, who made his return against Zambia on Monday. They'll be going up against Tanzania, who qualified as one of the best third-place teams without winning a single game. But their draws against Uganda and Tunisia did show that they did have a lot of spirit. We'll have to wait and see what those games end up looking like and who will get through to the quarterfinals.
Well, Emily, I know what I'll be watching tomorrow. And this update, thank you very much. This update concludes today's edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you for joining us. Keep on watching France 24.
Inside the stadium, they may look small, but their hearts beat strong. Hands clench. The stands roar with excitement. The game kicks off. Dreams take flight. Because every strike tells a story. Because every goal echoes across the continent. In Africa, football is more than just a game. Follow the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations from December 21st to January 18th on France 24.